Like, this is straight up unvarnished racism. Is indefensible. But I'm sorry, this is far from the most racist act that the Trump administration has turned into regular policy, when the last couple of months of this administration was saying every Somali is a parasitic demon that needs to be forcibly excised from the boundaries of the state. And they started blackbagging people, kidnapping them, kidnapping brown people and black people in the streets. Do you understand how fucking stupid that is when you're like, well, this is the most racist thing I've ever seen? It's like, well, bitch, you haven't been paying attention. Anyway, let's talk about Donald Trump, by the way. Real quick hit on that. Donald Trump is up to no good. As you guys know, he came out of the gate swinging with this post that he had about how the Democrats objectively stole the election. And then had that brief screen recording where Obama and Barack and Michelle Obama were presented as apes. And understandably, that led to a little bit of chaos and controversy, because that's like the one thing that even racist Americans are not going to get on board with. It is basically the equivalent of calling a black person the N-word, right? And at first, Caroline Leavitt and the Republicans instantly started defending it, because that's their primary purpose. That's what they're known to do. That's what they're supposed to do, right? But then they backed away. They backed away because this is totally outside of the bounds of permissible racism. But Trump turned around and doubled down regardless.
President Trump saying he will not apologize after sharing a video clip on his Truth Social account that depicted, I can't believe I'm reading these words, former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama as apes. The post drawing widespread backlash from both Democrats and Republicans. The White House removing the post after it was online for about 12 hours. CBS's Willie James Inman is in West Palm Beach with more on this story. Good morning, Willie.
Adriana, good morning to you. The president claims he didn't see the first portion of that he saw only the first portion of that video and not the racist part of it. He claims he passed it on to a staffer who didn't review the full video. Now, we want to warn our viewers, we will show it briefly for context in this report.
I am, by the way, the least racist president you've had in a long time.
President Trump's controversial late-night video post on Thursday was about alleged voter fraud. And
can I say something controversial? Maybe my black Hasanabi Hayes will get mad at me for saying this. I don't think they should shy away from showing it. Like, we're all adults, man. He posted that shit. I think it's a disservice not to show exactly what he was posting. Is that controversial? Like, am I being white on this? Like, is this, Caucasian activities? I think no, I think he should be embarrassed over and over again till the ends of time for posting this shit. But I think when the media goes, oh, we shouldn't show you this, I feel like it's a disservice. No, show it. He posted it. He didn't have no problems. He had no qualms posting that shit at all. I think that shit should be shown. I feel like it's this like relic of old school liberalism, maybe like almost like a woke 1.0 thing where they're like, oh, we're just not going to show it to you. It's like, we're all adults, man. I don't want to speak out of turn here for my black chatters, but like, we've all seen shit like this, right? I don't know. I can only compare it to like Islamophobic shit that I receive with regular frequency. And yeah, it's not pleasant to see stuff like that. My face superimposed over Osama bin Laden or something, or saying that like I'm a ISIS fighter or whatever. It's not great to see it, but I would much rather have everybody see the shame that these people are bringing about themselves than not. It almost feels like you're helping this person, right? Like, it's very cringe, and I understand why it invokes certain feelings. Like, I'm much more in line with like not showing certain images, like, George Floyd, right? Like I don't, because a lot of people will go back and forth on things like that, like real violence that a real human being has received is very different than like this kind of like nonsensical racism.
Like beginning, I saw it and just passed it on, and I guess probably nobody reviewed the end of it because what I saw at the beginning was really, really strong.
But the end of the video showed a depiction of the Obamas as apes. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt initially defended the post and called it an internet meme about the Lion King, adding, "Stop the fake outrage." The political fallout was swift, with some members of the president's own party calling on him to take down the post and apologize.
You condemn the racist parts of the video?
Of course I do.
But the president says he did.
We don't need to see state violence like that. I understand people wringing their hands over that. Someone died in that incident, but this is a stupid meme. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not saying this like extends to gruesome imagery that shows the final moments of like a black victim of state violence or whatever. I'm not saying that that's the same here. The calculation is different on this one because this is like the slight here is imagery, right? And if you don't show the offending image, then you're doing a disservice. As a black woman, I was educated in black school where we watched videos of black people being hosed and attacked during the civil rights movement. Later, when I went to a white school, they were allowed to believe that none of the state violence was real because they were protected from seeing it and raging. Yeah, there's also that argument as well. I mean, it's just like,
do anything wrong.
We took it down as soon as we found out about it. I didn't make a mistake.
Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina.
I didn't make a mistake. Someone else did. Okay.
Lone black Republican in the U.S. Senate posted this, praying it was fake because it's the most racist thing I've seen out of this.
Dude, I love this, by the way. This is my favorite line. Praying this was fake. Yeah, Tim. Oh, yeah? You're praying? You're praying this was fake, huh? You're such a bitch. He's such a bitch. He's like, this is the most racist thing I've seen. Really? Were your eyes closed? Were your ears plugged when he was going around being like, Haitians are eating cats and dogs? You know how they are, those black immigrants eating cats and dogs. That's right. They do voodoo. Like all this shit. You think that wasn't racist? Pray harder, bitch. And then Trump turns around and is like, yeah, I posted that. What of it? I didn't post it. Someone else did, but I'm not apologizing.
The president should
just attacked by your chat for asking a simple question. What the fuck kind of community do you have? The question was, hey, Hasan, cool stuff. Can we get a sex stream soon? Like, this is straight up unvarnished racism. Is indefensible. But I'm sorry, this is far from the most racist act that the Trump administration has turned into regular policy, when the last couple of months of this administration was saying every Somali is a parasitic demon that needs to be forcibly excised from the boundaries of the state. Okay? Like that, to me, that's not only unimaginable racism, like Hitlerian nonsense, okay, but also on top of the Hitlerian propaganda, the dehumanization of a group of black American citizens, by the way, because Somalis are American citizens by and large. But then on top of that, they also implemented a policy of occupying a city, and they started black bagging people, kidnapping them, kidnapping brown people and black people in the streets under the suspicion that they might be undocumented. Do you understand how stupid that is when you're like, well, this is the most racist thing I've ever seen? It's like, well, bitch, you haven't been paying attention, okay? You have not been paying attention. Once again, the only reason why Tim is offended by this is because all the other stuff, albeit objectionable, is at least like not directly impacting him. Like he can find that somewhat defensible. He can just like turn around and say like, well, you see, this is just immigration policy. This is good. We just want to protect our nation. A nation without borders is no nation at all. But this one, he's just directly saying black people are monkeys. And of course, he can't defend that. Even Tim can't defend that, right? So the real offense here is that this makes Tim's position much harder to defend. That's the only reason why he's like, oh, I hope this isn't real.
CBS News has learned the president personally called Senator Scott and said the video was a staffer's mistake. The post was deleted after the president's call with Senator Scott.
I think that it was an acknowledgement that this was definitely an error. I just don't believe the lower-level staffer actually did it.
Republican political strategist Malik Abdul.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, this is like Tim Scott's purpose. Like, no disrespect here. Some people get touchy-feely when I say this, but like, let's be real. There's only one role that black Republicans play in the party, okay? And that is the role of a token who sits there and says, as a black American, I've experienced racism. Insert Republican position here is not racist. That's it. That's it. And you can see that here. Here is Senator Tim Scott calling Donald Trump an American lion at the 2024 RNC, saying words that we've heard a million times over from every black conservative, which is that America's not a racist country at all.
It's going to offend the liberal elites. Every time I say it, it offends them. But let me say it one more time. America is not a racist country.
Is this actually outrage for racism against black people or just because it was Obama? No, it's racism against black people, chatter. What are you talking about? If Donald Trump called Barack Obama the N-word, that wouldn't just be exclusive to Barack Obama. That's how racism works. It's against all black people. And that's why Tim Scott, who is whose sole purpose is to lie to people and make white people basically feel more comfortable in their white supremacist values by presenting this false narrative that America has no racism in it. You know, America's not a racist country. All this shit. Found that to be indefensible.
No, we're not.
Oh, you can.
But if you were looking for racism today,
1 second.
you'd find it in cities
You can pull
run
it.
by Democrats. Look on the south side of Chicago. Poor black kids trapped in failing schools. Thousands shot every single year, including one of my former interns, Daquan. But there's good news. It's conservative values that restores hope.
Yeah. Good one. Okay. I mean, it's shameful, right? Of course, he doesn't have the capacity to feel shame, but it's a shameful experience to be this guy. It's you have debased yourself. You are no longer you are actively arguing against your own lived experience. Let's be real. Okay? You are actively arguing against your own lived experience in an effort to advance your personal career, in an effort to make white people feel some type of way about their perspectives, their racism. You have no integrity. You are a silly person. That's it. But even a silly person has, I guess a moment where they feel like they've been humiliated too much.
Has to have a serious reset, or he's going to risk not just what happens in the midterm. Donald Trump is going to risk his legacy if he does not change course.
And Vlad,
yeah, he's really risking his legacy. Yeah, by not being more racist, I think, because that's his legacy. Who the thinks Donald Trump's legacy is unironically, tolerant, woke, not racist? Like, who the thinks that? We have to go right now? Are we late? Okay, I'm going to change real quick. I'm going to put on more clothes real quick.
during that gaggle on Air Force One with reporters, the president also claimed that he's the least racist president that America has had in a long time. He also says that he has paid attention to issues that are important to the black community, including criminal justice reform and funding for historically black colleges and universities. Vlad.
All right, Willie, thank you very much.
I looked at the first part, and it was really about voter fraud and the machines, how crooked it is, how disgusting it is. Then I gave it to the people. Generally, they look at the whole thing, but I guess somebody did.
Mr. President, a number of Republicans Republicans are calling on you to apologize for that post. Is that something you're going to do?
No, I didn't make a mistake.
Okay, well, he did eventually remove the post. It had been up for nearly 12 hours, but he did remove it. And I want to warn before we show it to you that it is racist and offensive, but it's important to show because this was posted on the official account of the President of the United States, right? This is what was posted there. You can see here the faces of the Obamas put onto bodies of apes, and his decision to take the post down came after the White House initially doubled down on the post itself. The press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, saying, quote, "This is from an internet meme video depicting President Trump as the king of the jungle and the Democrats as characters from The Lion King. Please stop the fake outrage and report on something today that actually matters to the American public." Well, that was said, but then the backlash got loud. Republican Senator Tim Scott, the only black Republican in the Senate, came out calling it the most racist thing out of this White House. Estelle Herndon and Andrew Yang are out front now. Pretty incredible, Estelle, okay, on a lot of levels. But it takes them 12 hours to take this down. Yeah. At first they say, owning exactly what it was, not trying to say it was about voting machines, and I didn't see the part about the apes. They actually owned the whole part about the apes. And then still took it down.
Yeah, the initial response was to defend it, as it always is with the Trump White House. And then after the blowback started, we have seen these kind of further retractions. I mean, when I saw this morning, it is both shocking and not shocking at the same time, right? Like at one, you have the reality of the President of the United States engaging in offensive racist behavior, but you also have a president who has had his whole political rise tied to those very same things. I mean, the origin story of Donald Trump is a racist conspiracy about Barack Obama. So, I mean, we cannot extract Donald Trump from the trail of racism that he has left or encouraged. But I think this reflects a White House that is increasingly at a credibility loss, too. They are putting their officials out there, Caroline Leavitt included, and whether it's Minneapolis or whether it's Trump's health or whether it's this video, they're increasingly asking the public to not believe what's in front of them. And I think that has contributed to Donald Trump's increasing unpopularity with the electorate.
So, you know, Andrew, the White House obviously now trying to blame it on a White House staffer. Okay, which, I mean, there's so much irony in that. You could take the Rob Reiner post, you could take so many posts that they actually haven't even tried to blame on a staffer, right? They're like, he goes ahead and posts his own stuff that I don't know anybody thought was okay. In this case, Trump allies are calling to fire the staffer. Bill O'Reilly said, you got to fire the staffer right away. Pastor Mark Burns, after speaking with Trump, says, my recommendation to the president was direct and firm. The staffer should be fired immediately. And the president should publicly condemn this action, which he didn't do, right? He said he didn't make a mistake. But a source familiar with Trump's social media, as I said with Rob Reiner, he posts on Truth Social all the time by himself. He posts in the middle of the night by himself, right? So suddenly in this case, this one somehow upset enough people that he's going to put the fig leaf up?
Yeah, the backlash was truly bipartisan, which is something of a rarity in today's politics. I agree with Estelle. Aside from how violent, disgusting
isn't that
the video
great? The
first thing
backlash
that
was
came to mind for me
bipartisan.
was distraction.
We're back to bipartisanship.
Because the actions of ICE in Minneapolis, wildly unpopular, even with many people who voted for Donald Trump. This week, a job report came out saying that it was the worst January for people looking for jobs since 2009.
It's 17 years. If we go back.
Yeah, and so I thought to myself, okay, this is Trump throwing something out there to change the news cycle.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think there has been speculation that he has done that before. We know that that's his instinct, is to like get it back on his terms.
What's the brand of the shoes? Is it Rick Owens, Doc Martens collab?
More familiar topics, be it social stuff or
Excuse me, to the people saying "F off, Andrew Yang, no one cares about you." How dare you say such mean words? We are. I can't even say it. God's not letting me say it. We're Yang gangers, baby. Yeah. We need a new way of politics, a new way forward, okay? That's what we want. That's what the people demand. Go forward. Not left, not right, forward. Instead, W, though, always.
What we used to call wokeness or fighting against that.
Yeah.
This isn't that.
This
like,
is way
this
beyond.
is way
This
beyond
is like
that.
a very, very
bad.
bad.
And so I'm saying, even as they try to draw Democrats into culture wars, I think they have miscalculated the moments in which Donald Trump goes way beyond that. The Rob Reiner post is one of that. I think this post is another.
Yeah, worse.
Yeah,
I mean, the Rob Reiner post didn't get this much from Republican senators, and you had administration allies coming out and saying, fire this guy, apologize immediately.
Joining me now is Harvard University professor and former NAAC president Cornell William Brooks. Professor, the president is saying in furtherance of a lie about voter fraud in Georgia, of which there was not, which is just something he endlessly repeats like a guy in a bar late at night. He posted or approved the posting of this this meme. What do you make of his explanation and how the White House has kind of come up with various explanations throughout the day?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. What I make of the president's explanation is that it is neither an explanation nor an excuse. We have seen from this White House shifting narratives, the president taking responsibility for posting that which the White House denied and that is subsequently attributed to a young staffer. So in other words, we have shifting narratives, apparent lies, and the president not taking responsibility for his actions and the consequences of it. Anderson, we need to really be clear here. The president was drawing from a deep, toxic well of racist tropes going back to at least the 1850s with scientific racism. This notion that Black people are most closely related to apes and gorillas and simians, such that they are subhuman and sub-citizens. And since this president has called into question President Obama's birthplace and his legitimacy, credibility as a citizen, this is true to form. So in other words, this is incredibly offensive. It is not entirely new.
Well, it's interesting. You are right. It is also interesting that he doesn't say, you know, had I seen this, I never would have done this. This is, you know, terrible. These images are sickening, you know, and I would never post something like that. And it's interesting to me that I guess he views it as a sign of strength, his refusal to ever apologize, his refusal to admit that he made a mistake. It seems to me.
Hasan, get your racist PhD up. This guy's cooking you. I know. I'm getting cooked. I'm getting racism mogged. Don't forget the gloves on. I have it right here. Even though they're not exactly that good. We're about to find out if this heat tech actually holds, by the way, because I just swapped out the heat tech for the big bulky turtleneck that I have, the Montclair turtleneck that I have. Donald Trump is using Lion King memes the right way. God, Ezra Klein gave us such a beautiful gift with that, honestly. He gave us such a beautiful gift with that. I am forever grateful to Ezra Klein for that. Good luck. We're another big freeze weekend here. I know. I'm going to try to purchase a jacket.
The ultimate sign of weakness that he's
anyway
so afraid of.
We're moving on. We're moving
out.
I'll swap over in a second, okay?
Admit it when he does.
Well, you know, the thing is, it's a sign of weakness in two respects. There's a weakness with respect to admitting a wrong and taking responsibility, but there's also a weakness with respect to his inability to resist this racist impulse to demean, to degrade, to belittle Black people generally and the country specifically. And what I mean by that is this president seems to think that he is merely insulting the Obamas and Black people when he, in fact, is also insulting his supporters. What do we mean by that? He seems to believe that his base and white Americans can be so rage-baited and race-baited that they will forget high grocery prices or unaffordable homes or a White House that is in absolute chaos. So in other words, he calls into question the humanity, the intelligence and character of Black people, but he also calls into question the intelligence and conscience of white people. And so he is so small on so many levels. This is, caricature in miniature, microscopic character.
Cornell William Brooks, I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Watching the Hasan the Hun stream and Anna Navarro's going on and on about how we need to reach out to Republican voters. No, they need to sit down and shut the fuck up. And if they want to be allies, listen to the people who were right all along. Yeah. I felt like you were trying to stop yourself from lying the whole time. I mean, there was a little bit of that, I'll be honest. Like, I definitely I definitely was feeling it. Yeah, there were some good moments from the stream. One of them was clocked by Pop Stenox. Here it is.
These people, and we need to embrace them and amplify these people who are having second thoughts and who are regretting their vote. There's a lot here where I live.
Can I say something? I know I've said a lot. The thing I was going to say is this. There is this calculation that takes place every election cycle in the midterms, only in the Democratic Party, by the way. This never happens in the Republicans, what I'm about to say, which is, how do we get these racists on board? Oh, we have to become a little bit more racist. Oh, we have to become transphobic. Oh, we have to do this. We have to do that. No, we want those voters to come and vote for the Democratic Party or to vote for the most progressive politician that's available. We want them to do that. But we don't want them to do that by conceding on these ridiculous lines. We want them to do that because we're offering something to every American unconditionally. Medicare for all is obviously a great example of this, because at the end of the day, racists need health care too. Racists need a roof over their heads too. And if they have that roof over their heads and if they have that health care, maybe it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them to act out on their racist desires. So my argument always is, instead of trying to bargain with them and instead of trying to concede on these, culture war narratives, offer them something to vote for the first time ever, instead of taking a defensive position and allowing the Republicans to dominate the conversation.
We need.
She also said something like, ally with us, at least until next election. And we're all thinking, what the point then? I mean, you have to understand, like, this is Ana Navarro's bread and butter. Her entire existence on mainstream media is to say, we have to get these racist Republicans on board. And the only way to get these racist Republicans on board is by becoming, more moderate, right? The moderate is the terminology that is often used, but I think we all know what that means. They mean like moderate on anti-racism, moderate on, anti-ICE, moderate on criticizing the police, all this stuff. Now, is she still a Republican? I mean, she's not pro-Trump, right? But I think for her, I mean, she's the child. Her father was a member of a death squad, right? Yeah, Ana Navarro is a former lifelong Republican. The reason she was a lifelong Republican, even in 2016, she was working for Jeb campaign, is that when she moved to the U.S. from Nicaragua in 1980, her former agricultural secretary dad stayed behind as one of the Contras. So her dad is like literally a war criminal, right? Like, that's true. Like, she's openly talked about it, right? She's like been like, my dad is, my dad's a Contra. Now, of course, because those are our war criminals, like, that doesn't mean anything in America. That's not like actually going to get you dinged at all, right? But God forbid you have like a family member that's a part of like the Palestinian resistance or something, you're right? Because let's be real, America is on the wrong side of a lot of issues. Okay, if I'm going to be fair and balanced here, America's on the wrong side of a lot of issues, and our allies also happen to be on that same wrong side. So there's a lot of people that have very bad politics and have contributed a tremendous amount of pain to their respective countries that get to live inside of the United States of America and even openly present their worldview, their ideology, no matter how heinous it might be by American standards, right? So that's just how it is. What is this? Any thoughts on Emiru's take on ICE? I've seen it. Everyone's cooking Emiru on the timeline. Yeah, the Department of War is clavicular posting now as well. We have the most terminally online administration. I know. They went from Groyper posting. To clavicular posting. What is this? Hassan, try not to laugh. Paper straw takes out Israeli soldier. Embrace and amplify. Are you kidding me? Why are they so obsessed with undercutting the vulnerable and bleeding to make the people who paved the way for that violence to happen? Yeah. So let's look at the comments. By the way, this is the Don Lemon collab comments. Lemonheads, Hasanabi Heads. Hasan is so smart. It was a great idea to have him on your show. It was a great conversation. I didn't know Akila loved her too. It was never about the economy. It was never about the deficit. It's always been the racism. Two lemons collide. Pleasure to see Hasan on the broadcast. So uncanny watching Lemon Brother with Don Lemon. Universe indeed healing y'all. Thank you for having Hasan on. More Hasan. He's been so unbelievably negatively portrayed, and it's such a shame because he's one of the smartest political voices of our time. And I'm saying that as a Southern mom in her 50s. He gets this current American political landscape and how we got here and is capable of presenting and understanding through succinct and digestible facts. God damn. He also has a very comprehensive foreign policy understanding in all of the ways inequality, colonial thinking, unbalanced wealth distribution via economic power structures has created a ruling class that's manipulating every part of our lives. His own channel against, again, as a 50-ish year old, isn't necessarily always an easy watch because I'm not the target audience, more geared towards my kids' age. But whenever he's invited onto a show, he rocks it every time. Thanks for giving this message a platform. Is that your burner? Yeah. On my burner, I present myself as a 50-year-old. Wait, hold on. Shit. I present myself as a 50-year-old lady. I gotta admit how surprised I was that I was agreeing with someone like Hasan Piker who was articulating all the frustrations I'm having with the Democratic Party, the racism, the Epstein files, the wars, ICE. If Dems are competent enough, they should use these events to galvanize the party for the midterms in 2028. See, that's what I'm looking for. Okay. I'm looking for people who are not like Hasanabi Heads like in the comments, but I'm looking for like liberal fans of Don Lemon who are like, damn, I thought this guy was ass. Turns out he's not ass at all. Maybe I was lied to about his positions. Because it's crazy that like for a lot of liberals, like their first interaction with someone like myself is oftentimes very, very negatively portrayed by a diehard like Democratic Party loyalist. But I will say, another theory that I have, as I have many theories, as you know, is that a lot of blue no matter who people are simply regime loyalists. They fancy themselves to be more intelligent than the MAGA cult, but they sometimes engage in cultish thinking as well. And I think a lot of people that present themselves as like diehard, you know, riding with Biden supporters, riding with Kamala supporters, don't necessarily have like a real ideological commitment to third way neoliberalism, but instead have a loyalty to the Democrats because they believe in the harm reduction theory. Now, the harm reduction theory is correct. The problem with the harm reduction theory, however, is that, one, it doesn't go far enough in terms of protecting the marginalized identities that it's supposed to protect. It's just simply better in comparison to the Republicans. And year over year, it just gets worse and worse for the base of support because the Republicans are constantly ratcheting the country in a rightward trajectory. But the reason why I'm saying, and harm reduction theory is obviously demonstrably a failure in terms of drawing out voters, right? It doesn't work. So technically it fails in reducing harm, right? It's not harm reduction necessarily, but it's harm delay. And even then, it's not even doing harm delay because you end up losing if that's your only, if that's the only reason why people should vote for you. If the argument you're presenting is we're better than the Republicans marginally, clearly that's not enough for people to come out and vote for you, right? Having said that, the reason why my theory is that a lot of these guys are just like regime pilled. They're simply regime pilled and going along with, you know, whatever the regime presents them, and they're defending it unconditionally, is because of that one massive Democratic Party booster, Stacey K. Right? I had some understandable but mild criticism in the direction of Zoran Mamdani and the timing of his endorsement of Kathy Hochul. Okay? If you recall, this is what happened yesterday. Popstanox posted that criticism, that mild criticism, to which, once again, as you guys know, I mean, Zoran is ideologically the closest elected I have. Okay? There is, I mean, it's not a secret. He is not only someone who I am, personally connected to, but also someone who I find to be the closest to my worldview, a person who is a self-described socialist. Some of you may disagree with that, right? Mild for 2 hours, lol. Yeah, I mean, most of it was just like justifying my perspective to a lot of people who didn't understand it, but that's usually how it goes, right? But my point is, not only do I feel like demographically represented by a politician, 34-year-old, socialist, Muslim, anti-Zionist, all this stuff, but also there is this ideological representation that I have, closer than probably many other congresspersons, with the exception of maybe like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. So in spite of all of that, and in spite of all the efforts that this community has poured into getting Zohran Mamdani, an underdog, elected into a nationally prominent position of power, although I'm, critical of him in this moment, right? I said Hasan Piker, Pops on Arsa writes, Hasan Piker disagrees with Zohran Mamdani's decision to endorse Kathy Hochul. There's no guarantee that Kathy Hochul is going to turn around and do anything for Zohran once she secures power. While Hochul has signed off on universal pre-K, there's a lot more in Zohran's agenda she has to sign off on, especially a wealth tax. If Zohran waits in this moment, he could take advantage of Delgado putting pressure on Hochul to assume more left-wing positions. So it's not necessarily that I have an issue with like even an endorsement of Kathy Hochul at all. Hasan, is Austinox leaked? Yeah, exactly. I'm actually a wizard at editing. Doing this amidst a massive strike with 15,000 nurses in New York City at a time when Hochul has extended the emergency to not give in to their demands is unimaginably bad, right? It's just like a bad time to do this. I know he wanted to do this to get ahead of the New York Democratic Party's like obvious endorsement where Kathy Hochul secured like 85%, all this stuff. But regardless, you don't have to put yourself out there. You don't have to present yourself as a defender of the machine at all, right? This is not necessarily an argument about like why endorse Kathy Hochul at all. I understand the political machinations at play here. I understand the reasons as to why you would do such a thing. I just don't agree with the timing of it. Now, having said that, okay, are we leaving soon? Oh, okay, good. Oh, you got me soon.
35 mile per hour wind gusts.
35 mile per hour wind gusts? Oh, hell yeah.
-15 degrees.
Hell yeah. Thank you. I was out and about trying to get heat tech and get a jacket, but I couldn't fit into anything. All right, perfect. Anyway, the point is, you should disagree with your electeds. You can have healthy disagreements. That doesn't mean that you write them off. That doesn't mean that they've betrayed the revolution. That doesn't mean anything until, they show themselves to be a betrayer, I guess, right? I don't think Zohran is there yet, right? I mean, but it's fine. It's like, it's normal and healthy to have reasonable disagreements from time to time. Now, what's interesting about it is, here is the difference between someone having a healthy disagreement with someone who is ideologically on their side. Me versus a regime enjoyer. Stacey K says, I honestly think Zohran Mamdani is better at politics than Hasan. To which I responded with, I respect how much you ride for the regime. If the Democratic Party was a communist, one, you'd be a communist. Maybe one day. To which she replied with, yeah, actually, I would defend an elected communist over unfair criticism from streamers, which is kind of what I'm currently doing. To which I replied with, precisely my point. And then posted an image of the most loyal servants of the Cultural Revolution, the Red Guard. Now, it's funny because she's like also calling Zohran Mamdani a communist. That wasn't what I was saying at all. I don't think she took anything away from your back and forth, to be honest. Getting dunked on by Hasan for defending Zohran. If you told me in 2024 I would be finding myself often agreeing with Stacey K in 2026, I'd be most bewildered. Zohran played a long game well so far. Like, critique him obviously, but also don't assume you know what he's cooking. I've always been blue no matter who, but what you didn't know in 2024 is that I meant that wokely. How's defending Zoran writing for the regime? I love that there is no productive discourse to be had on any website, really, and especially on Twitter, because most of the time you're basically battling people who are either professionally misunderstanding you or too stupid to understand your point. My point is, Zoran is my guy, not your guy, right? You're the type of person who says this is too woke, this is too pie in the sky. You stand in opposition to someone like Zoran until they win. And when they win, you're like, now Zoran is my guy. So much so that you refuse to even apply any sort of constructive criticism to anything that this elected is doing. And that's what's awesome. This is my proof. If there was ever a moment where I disagree with someone like Bernie Sanders, for example, me and my dog, who I've never electrocuted, yeah, no, I know she's not a fan. I don't really care about that sort of thing at all. I just, I will defend her rights unconditionally, regardless of the fact that her politics is so disastrously bad that it probably will elect the most transphobic administration possible. Either it's a Democratic administration that's leaning into the transphobia of the Republicans, or the maximalist transphobic Republican administration. I will still be out there fighting for her rights regardless, right? In any case, but that's neither here nor there. The point that I'm trying to make here is that these people do not have the ideological commitment to third way neoliberalism. The only reason why it looks like they have some sort of ideological commitment to third way neoliberalism is because they are incapable of thinking for themselves. They're incapable of having a political machination that is totally separate from whatever the party, one of the two planks in this country, in our current duopoly, is representing. So if the Democratic Party turned into a communist party tomorrow, magically, okay, a lot of the people that are vote blue no matter who would be communist. They would be saying, better red than dead. They would be advocating for full tilt communism, luxury communism. That's my point. My point is these people don't actually have any political machinations, any interest in like an affirmative vision. They're constantly on the defense. Okay, they are, yes, as the chatter said, they are loyal, unthinking soldiers, but that's a good thing. You need people like that, right? You do need people like that. You need some cadres. Yeah, she's literally an apparatchik, lol. Exactly. So my point is, I welcome them because they play a major role in the grand design that I have and that many of you, I think, understand at this point, which is dramatically reshaping American politics by, exhausting one of the options that we have in the duopoly that exists and getting these regime loyalists to defend that perspective. Hasan is blamed for that shit. Well, same with the average Republican voters who don't care about billionaire tax cuts and defund the public sector. They simply want to be lounge with the side of power. Yes. I think the vast majority of the voting population have no personal opinion about how this country should run or what a decent future for this country would look like. They have no grand design. They have no ideological commitment to anything. They're simply operating on a defensive posture. The voters, I mean. They're followers. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You need a yeah-based guy, right? You need many yeah-based guys. And these are our yeah-based soldiers. These are the people who see themselves as intellectually a cut above the Republicans. These are the people who look at the Republicans and the MAGA base and go, oh, they're a cult. They're so stupid. They're such a violent cult. And there's truth to that. The Republicans are a violent cult. But they also operate under the same cultish thinking, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a necessary and good thing. All it would take for these people to defend and preach the gospel of socialism or communism would be if the Democratic Party was a communist party or a socialist party. Not saying that that'll happen, but that's it. And this has been a theory that I've maintained for quite a while. As I have said over and over again, if Bernie Sanders had won in 2016, the Democratic primary, every single one of these, like, oh, I'm never voting for a socialist ass people, I'm pro Hillary Clinton ass people, would have become major Bernie dick riders. The evidence for this suggestion comes from 2008, because when Hillary Clinton had a diehard cult-like fan base, the overwhelming majority of the Democrats voted excitedly for Barack Obama and became lifelong Barack Obama stans. That's it. They're just loyalists. What they see in front of them magically becomes totally available and in the realm of possibility and something that they demand. They are the ones who lack the vision. They are the ones who are not audacious enough to dream. But you need people like that. You got too many dreamers, too many yearners, too many ideological delineations, and all of a sudden you have too many problems, too many cooks in the kitchen. So my point is, we shouldn't be spending a good deal of time trying to yell at these people. We should work to identify how we can get them on board in the primary structure to vote for the most left candidates possible by pumping them full of the electability argument. And that's it. Now, of course, they get their notes from mainstream media, and mainstream media, for the most part, is still very much committed to the think tanks that churn out policy papers with regular frequency, that have a very clear vision of defending liberalism, defending third way neoliberalism in particular. So you just have to do your very best to continue pumping it. I'm out. I just can't take this dude. I've tried. That's a bummer, chatter. Is it because you think I'm too revisionist? Is that what it is, you think? These same idiots join the bandwagon and do left bashing every chance they get. Yeah, but they don't do it because they have a serious liberal commitment. Do you understand? That's my point. They do left bashing because, they're learning that from MSNBC. They're learning that from the mainstream resources that they're reading. They would not be engaging in left bashing if all of the readily available resources was, repeating the things that I'm saying, for example. My point is they're an empty vessel. That's it. Why don't you prioritize reaching lib audiences on shows more often? I'll do more of that, I think. Well, also, part of it is because everybody in my community is so goddamn annoying. But that's not the reason why I don't do it. It's because I have other shit going on, right? But let's be real, chatter. You're probably familiar with how this stuff works. I go on the Pod Johns, and 99% of the ultras will say, I am committed to being a loyal servant of America. I want, bourgeois capitalist liberal democracy. I love the Democratic Party. I'm sheepdogging. I'm shepherding the revolutionary. I'm cutting the revolutionary potential short of the masses, and helping them find a space and an outlet, a pressure valve that they can release by voting for the Democrats. It's not just 12 ultras, chatters. Come on now. A big chunk of my community is very stupid when it comes to electoralism. They despise it. They still do it. They still vote at the end of the day. But there's a good chunk that will love talking shit about it over and over again to present themselves as the most moral vessel. they too, in some ways, lack the vision. They have a vision they have an ideological purpose. They have a vision for a better future. Having said that, however, they have no vision of achieving it. They don't have the methods. They either fantasize about a time past and assume that if we follow the trajectory of Lenin or Mao or whoever their fascination is, Enver Hoxha, Tito, that we will achieve socialism with no care or consideration for the current material realities, the current mechanisms for organizing, where the masses are and how the masses self-identify, how the masses see their own politics, how reactionary the masses are towards leftist politics in general, Marxism, Marxist-Leninism, socialism, anarchism, right? They don't consider any of those things in their calculation. And that's it. In any case, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, no matter what. I worry that this is erring close to Ana Navarro's point yesterday. I agree with you for electorals and purposes, but ideally I want people to have personal convictions. People whose personal interests include how society is treating people around them too. They don't need to understand policy, sure, but they need to give a damn. I know, but if they don't, I'm not going to be able to convince them, and who cares, right? Anyway, having said that, let's look at a loyal servant of capital. One who does indeed have an ideological commitment to third-way neoliberalism because that's the only way that he can make money. Adam Gentleson. John Fetterman's caretaker, personal handler, Adam Gentleson, went and started the Searchlight Institute. This is a place that's supposed to put out policy papers. They are objectively wrong all the time. Their job is to basically tell the Democrat electeds that they're totally right for listening to their corporate donors. That's their entire purpose, right? Their entire purpose is to say, oh, we got to be more moderate. We got to be more moderate. That's what it is. So Adam Gentleson says, Democrats saying tough on crime. We are so back, in response to Kathy Hochul's shitty ass post here. Wrath of Kath. Tough on crime. Fighting for New York. No mercy. No one messes with New York. Adam Gentleson supports this and says, Democrats saying tough on crime. We are so back. To which many people also repeated, Democrats saying tough on crime. We are so back. That was awesome. Brian Tashman replies to that with, this was the 2024 message, and how did that turn out? The prosecutor versus the felon. Democrats see winning contrast between Harris and Trump. Adam Gentleson responds to that and says, it's a monument to motivated reasoning that some folks have convinced themselves that Kamala Harris, who in nearly a decade on the national stage had an unbroken record as an orthodox progressive and who endured relentless attacks from Trump on that record, lost because she was moderate. Mike from PA chimes in and says, Adam, she was a senator for 2 years and spent most of her time in statewide office as a bog standard centrist Democrat. To which I know Adam's response, which is the dumbest response of all time. That's just not true. She had one of the most lefty voting records in the entire Senate. She co-sponsored Medicare for All and supported open borders. But that doesn't fit the narrative, so people are recasting her as a moderate. That's what I mean about motivated reasoning. I hate this argument because the government tracker, nonpartisan tracker, literally has the worst standard. This tracker made Kamala Harris out to be more progressive than Bernie Sanders. This obviously doesn't factor in politicians devoid of any sort of power when they're in the minority party, going out and voting for bills they have no intention of following through on once they are in power. Medicare for All being the greatest example of this. Kamala Harris was supposed to be a Medicare for All loyal soldier. She was never a Medicare for All soldier at all. She didn't even have Medicare for All on her platform when she was running for president. And not only that, but also she did desperately try to present herself as a moderate. That's precisely the reason why she was hanging out with Liz Cheney the entire time. In any case, most lethal military, continuing along with everything that's going on in Gaza, all this stuff played a role in her looking hypocritical, including seemingly changing her attitude on immigration, even though it technically didn't change at all. That's always a bit of a cop-out when you say most left-wing vote records in the Senate. The Senate is entirely composed of right-wing goons, and even then, that's only on what was voted on. You got to measure things somehow. Correct. She tried to pivot and it wasn't enough to overcome the deeply unpopular left-wing policy she spent most of her career taking and for which Trump relentlessly attacked her. It's that simple. Or maybe the Democratic Party doesn't have a real vision for immigration and are simply playing the defensive posture that they are known to play, and this makes them look deeply hypocritical. And part of the reason why is because a lot of people don't have any understanding of how politics is done, and they just assume Democrats are the open border party. Adam, it is demonstrable fact that Harris ran as tough on crime prosecutor as VP told immigrants don't come, extolled a lethal military at the DNC, and refused to budge an inch on the single biggest progressive issue of our time, Gaza. Don't disagree on Gaza, but time did not start when Harris became the nominee. She spent most of her career taking unpopular left-wing positions that Trump hung around her neck, and she lost. I do not recall Trump attacking her for being a moderate centrist. Because Republicans don't ever say someone is a moderate centrist, why the is this the counter argument? When have Republicans ever attacked someone for being a moderate centrist? The Republicans call Nancy Pelosi a communist. Are we living in the same universe? This is motivated reasoning. Adam Gentleson, former handler of John Fetterman, a careerist as a Democrat consultant, has realized that his bread will be buttered as long as he tells the same Democratic Party electeds in the national party that they do not have to stray away from the path that they've charted so far, third way neoliberalism. Moderate, 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 go moderate. This is exactly the reason why Kamala Harris lost. They don't want to recognize that. The autopsy was hidden. Okay? Not even certain if the autopsy would be decent enough anyway, but the very fact that they hid that from the masses is indicative that maybe they saw some stuff in there, especially around Gaza, that they did not want other people to know. They did not want to come to that conclusion. They didn't want to recognize it. Okay? But basically, when you are on the Democratic side of the ticket, the Republicans are never going to turn around and say, "Hey, you are actually presenting a reasonable, moderate position." They're just going to call you a communist. Whatever you are is bad, because unlike the Democrats, Republicans do want to win. Okay, that's it. That's it. Republicans want to win. Democrats want to win by slim margins, slim enough that they can justify their inaction in Congress, in the legislative body, with a rotating villain structure that they have in their party. That's the reason why the Republicans look vile but competent. Democrats look feckless, hypocritical, and incompetent. Okay? Democrats want the Republicans to follow through on their agenda, not the voters, of course. I'm talking about the politicians. Democratic politicians want the moral superiority of feeling as though they tried their best and they lost, and allow the Republicans to do whatever the they want to do, because they hate legislating, because following through on their promises that they've made in the campaign implies going against their corporate benefactors. Republicans do not have this problem. Republicans can be openly and transparently vile. They can be openly and transparently as pro-capitalist as possible when they're marketing themselves. That's why they rely heavily on culture war narratives to shift people's attention away from the material realities, and make everybody and their mothers focus on the immaterial, the culture war narratives. They can get away with a deregulatory agenda. They can get away with destroying unions. They can get away with being lapdogs and servants of billionaires. Democrats, on the other hand, are supposed to present themselves as against all of that, even though they technically are pro all of that, right? Because they are the same corporate benefactors that have a vested interest in continuing same old business as usual politics. Complete and utter domination of the working class at the behest of capital. That's it. Matt Iglesias finally admits at least one of his failed positions, talking about the New Jersey 11 race that ended up with AIPAC actually hurting or receiving an own goal. I talked about this extensively, but I'll give you a quick summary. Analia Mejia is a Bernie-crat, and AIPAC, this AIPAC subsidiary United Democracy Project in the New Jersey 11 race, identified the former Congressperson Malinowski. Am I saying his name right? Sorry, shout out to the Polish. As the number one guy to defeat. Why did they want to do that? Because he had said that although his consistent advocacy in the Biden administration, and although he had a track record, a proven track record of being pro-Israel for the most part, he said, as a centrist Democrat running in this race, which was the most likely candidate to win, he had the audacity to say he could step out of line with the AIPAC position. So AIPAC basically pumped millions of dollars into their own personal moderate Democrat candidate that was, objectively pro-Israel, and also spent an even larger amount of millions of dollars against the centrist Democrat for Malinowski's statements of sometimes conditioning aid potentially in the future to the state of Israel. That's it. That was all this was. And because of this, because of the endless amounts of attacks that he received as a candidate in the Democratic primaries in an anti-ICE race, he was not sufficiently seen as anti-ICE. He had actually funded ICE. AIPAC abused that over and over again. And it left people thinking, okay, well, I want a real anti-ICE candidate. This part is very important. And the only abolish ICE candidate happened to be Analia Mejia, the Bernie-crat. So they ended up firing. They ended up launching a cannon in the direction of the centrist Democrat who was objectively pro-Israel. And now the Bernie-crat is going to win this race in a massive upset victory. Isn't that wonderful? To which Matt Iglesias says, this is an egregious up by AIPAC, and both the fact that it happened and their absurd response are representatives of what's been really catastrophically bad politically decision making the pro-Israel community over the past 2 years. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris took meaningful, politically costly pro-Israel actions that displeased their base, and for their trouble, they got completely hung out to dry. Who could have foreseen this? Yeah. Brian says this is the first time he's admitted to this law. He spent his entire primary saying exactly the opposite and calling the anti-genocide protesters fringe radicals. Here's one he forgot to delete, and he deleted a bunch of his positions, I guess, after delivering this final recognition, which is not even a day late, $1 short. It's more like 2 years late and billions of dollars short. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden dropped this race for Israel. For Kamala Harris, it was an act of cowardice. I've talked to people that have worked with her closely on her campaign. They agree with me. I will not be revealing names, of course. It was an act of cowardice. She just hang on to Joe Biden, this anchor around her neck, because she is incompetent and cowardly. Joe Biden, on the other hand, was a demented ultra-Zionist and had an ideological commitment to Israel, and I suspect wanted to see dead Palestinian children, because the way he was behaving, in spite of the observable reality that Israel consistently made him look like a asshole over and over again, the observable reality was that Joe Biden was chalk committed to maxing out all of his contributions to Israel, no matter what the political cost for that was. He promoted the genocide. He continued the genocide. He lied at the behest of Israel in deeply shameful ways. He destroyed the liberal international order, for the record. He absolutely destroyed it, which is ironic because that was supposed to be his signature accomplishment, right? Instead of the Finlandization of NATO, we were going to do the NATOization of Finland. 15-minute warning. Okay. Mr. We NATOized Finland turned around and torched what remained of the attitude towards the international rule-based liberal order. He destroyed it, especially because it was so close in proximity to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Hakeem Jeffries, on track to win the majority, neutralize Trump's gerrymandering gambit, has wielded discharge petitions to more effect than any minority leader, vindicated on the ACA shutdown tactic, not bad. Oh my God, he's still... These guys, you have to understand, these guys are paid to lose, okay? They are paid to give the losing analysis, the loser's analysis to the Democrats. Their bag relies on them being wrong all the time. That's it. The DNC concealing the 2024 autopsy as if voters don't deserve transparency is in keeping with how they shut out external input on Biden running for re-election. The party making the democracy case is internally undemocratic, staffed by careerists prioritizing their own power. Do we have a playlist for today, by the way, Themasius? I'm known in Orlando as the Asian Mogger. Would you have the honor of validating me? You are not the Asian Mogger. Don't you lie. Don't you lie to me. There's only one Asian Mogger in Orlando, and he mogged clavicular. Hasan Reaction is one of the best ones in the React channel.